Jnanakosha, Upanishads.
ॐ गणानां त्वा गणपतिगुं हवामहे कविं कवीनामुपवज्रमस्तमं ज्येष्ठराजं ब्रह्मणान् ब्रह्मणस्पदान् शृण्वन्नोतिभिः ॐ पूर्णमिदं पूर्णमदः पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेव अवशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः
Krishna Yajurveda Upanishad. Tejo Bindu Upanishad. Tejo Bindu Upanishad, a Yoga Upanishad, is the last of the 5 Bindu Upanishads. The other 4 being the Nada Bindu, Brahma Bindu, Amrita Bindu and Dhyana Bindu. The word Tejo Bindu means the effulgent point. The effulgent point refers to the indwelling Atman because of its being the light of lights, physical and spiritual, which illumines the whole universe and dispels all darkness of the mind. Point denotes its extreme subtleness. Tejo Bindu Upanishad comprises 13 slokas or couplets. It begins with the instruction that the supreme meditation, Paramadhyana, should be on the Tejo Bindu or the effulgent point alone, which is the Atman of the universe, which is seated in the heart, which is the size of the Atma, which pertains to Shiva, which is quiescent and which is gross and subtle, as also above all these qualities. The sage does prescribe disciples and disciplines on initiation into disciplehood for purification of the mind and sense control through Anava, Shakta and Shambhava, for raising oneself to the highest stage of realization, but accepts the fact that even to the wise and to the thoughtful, this meditation is difficult to perform and difficult to attain, difficult to cognize and difficult to abide, and difficult to define and difficult to cross. Still, it is to be meditated upon after due preparation and understanding of the 3 stages of meditation, Dharana, Dhyana and Samadhi, as conferring upon men final liberation, and becomes manifest to one whose mind is pure and whose highest refuge is Brahman, who is absorbed in or intent on the contemplation of Brahman. The sage speaks about the non-dual nature of Brahman. The person immersed in Prasupta Dhyana, meditating on Brahma, becomes Brahman. His meditation reaches in the highest form, Parabdhyana, and becomes Samadhi. Om, may He protect us both together. May He nourish us both together. May we work conjointly with great energy. May our study be vigorous and effective. May we not mutually dispute. Om, let there be peace in me. Let there be peace in my environment. Let there be peace in the forces that act on me. Chapter 1. Paramadhyana, the supreme meditation, should be upon Tejo Bindu, which is the Atman of the universe, which is seated in the heart, which is of the size of an atom, which pertains to Shiva, which is quiescent and which is gross and subtle, as also above these qualities. That alone should be the dhyana of the munis as well as of men, which is full of pains, which is difficult to meditate on, which is difficult to perceive, which is the emancipation one, which is decayless and which is difficult to attain. One whose food is moderate, whose anger has been controlled, who has given up all love for society, who has subdued his passion, who has overcome all fear, who has given up his egoism, who does not bless anyone nor take anything from others, and also who goes where they naturally ought not to go, and naturally would not go where they like to go. Such persons also obtain 3 in the face. Hamsa is said to have 3 seeds. Therefore, know it is the greatest of mysteries, without sleep and without support. It is very subtle of the form of Soma and is the supreme seat of Vishnu. That seat has 3 faces, 3 gunas and 3 dhatus, and is formless, motionless, changeless, sizeless and supportless. That seat is without upadhi and is above the reach of speech and mind. It is svabhava, reachable only by bhava. The indestructible seat is associateless, without bliss, beyond mind, difficult to perceive, emancipated and changeless. It should be meditated upon as the liberated, the eternal, the permanent and the indestructible. It is Brahman, is Adhyatma and is the highest seat of Vishnu. It is inconceivable of the nature of Chidatma and above the Akasha. It is void and non-void and beyond the void and is abiding in the heart. There is neither meditation nor meditator, nor the meditated, nor the non-meditated. It is not the universe. It is the highest space. It is neither supreme nor above the supreme. It is inconceivable, unknowable, non-truth and not the highest. It is realized by the Munis, but the Devas do not know the Supreme One. Avarice, delusion, fear, pride, passion, anger, sin, heat, cold, hunger, thirst, thought and fancy, all these do not exist in it. In it there is no pride of belonging to the Brahman caste, nor is there the collection of the knot of salvation. In it there is no fear, no happiness, no pains, neither fame nor disgrace. That which is without these states is the Supreme Brahman. Yama, Niyama, Tyaga, Mauna, according to time and place, Asana, Mulabandha, seeing all these bodies as equal, the position of the eye, Prana, Samaya, Mana, control of breath, Pratyahara, Dharana, Atmadhyana and Samadhi. These are spoken of as the paths of yoga in order. That is called Yama, in which one controls all his organs through the Vijnana, and all is Brahman. This should be practiced often and often. Niyama, in which there is the supreme bliss enjoyed through the flowing of the mind towards things of the same kind, and the abandoning of things differing from one another is practiced by the sages as a rule. In Tyaga, one abandons the manifestation of the universe through the cognition of Atma, that is Sat and Chit. This is practiced by the great and is the giver of immediate salvation. Mauna, in which without reaching that speech returns along with mind, it fit to be attained by the yogins and should be ever worshipped by the ignorant. How is it possible to speak of that from which speech returns? How should it be described as the universe, as there is no word to describe it? It is that which is really called silence and which is naturally understood. There is silence in children but with words, whereas the knowers of Brahma have it silence but without words. That should be known as the lonely seat in which there is no man in the beginning, middle, or end, and through which all this universe is fully pervaded. The illusion of Brahma and all other beings takes place within one twinkling. That should be known as asana, in which one has with ease and without fatigue meditation of Brahman, that is described by the word kala, that is endless bliss and that is secondless. Everything else is the destroyer of happiness. That is called Siddhasana, in which the Siddhas have succeeded in realizing the endless one as the support of the universe containing all the elements. That is called the Mula Bandha, which is the Mula, root of all worlds, and through which the root, Chitta, is Bandha, is bound. It should be always practiced by the Raja Yogins. One, after having known the equality of the Angas or parts of yoga, point in one and the same Brahman, should be absorbed in that equal uniform Brahman. If not, there is not that equality. Then, like a dry tree, there is a straightness or uniformity throughout. Making one's vision full of spiritual wisdom, one should look upon the world as full of Brahman. That vision is very noble. It is generally aimed at the tip of the nose, but it should be directed towards that seat wherein the cessation of seed, the seen and the sight will take place, and not towards the tip of the nose. That is called pranayama, in which there is the control of modification through the cognition of Brahman in all the states of Chitta and others. The checking of the universe is said to be expiration, the conception of I am Brahman in inspiration. The holding on to this conception without agitation is cessation of breath. Such is the practice of the enlightened. The ignorant close their nose. That should be known as pratyahara, through which one sees Atman in the objects of sense and pleases Chitta through manas. It should be practiced often and often. Through seeing Brahman wherever the mind goes, the dharana is meant for that state where one indulges in the good thought. Dharana is meant that state where one indulges in the good thought. I am Brahman alone and without any support. This dhyana is the giver of supreme bliss. Being first in a state of changelessness and then thoroughly forgetting that state owing to the cognition of the true nature of Brahman, this is called samadhi. This kind of bliss should be practiced by a wise person till his cognition itself united in a moment with the state of pratyaga, Atman. Then this king of yogins becomes a siddha and is without any aid. Then he will attain a state inexpressible and unthinkable. When samadhi is practiced, the obstacles arise with great force: absence of right, inquiry, laziness, inclination to enjoyment, absorption, tamas, distraction, impatience, sweat, and absent-mindedness. All these obstacles should be overcome by inquiries into Brahman. Through bhava vrittis, one gets into them. Through sunya vrittis, one gets into them. But through the vrittis of Brahman, one gets fullness. Therefore, one should develop fullness through this means of Brahman. He who abandons this vritti of Brahman, which is very purifying and supreme, that man lives in vain like a beast. But he who understands this vritti of Brahman, and having understood it makes advances in it, becomes a good and blessed person, deserving to be worshipped by the three worlds. Those who are greatly developed through the ripening of their past karmas attain the state of Brahman. Others are simply reciters of words. Those who are clever in arguments about Brahman, but are without the action pertaining to Brahman, and who are greatly attached to the world, those certainly are born again and again in this world through their ajnana. The former never remain even for half a moment without the vritti of Brahman, like Brahma and others, Sanaka and Sukha and others. When a cause is subject to changes, it must also have its cause. When the cause ceases to exist in truth, the effect perishes through right discrimination. Then that substance or principle which is beyond the scope of words remains pure. After that vritti, jnana arises in their purified mind. Through meditation with transcendental energy, there arises a firm certitude. After reducing the visible into the visible state, one should see everything as Brahman. The wise should ever stay in bliss with their understanding full of the essence of Chit. Thus ends the first chapter.